Ever get that feeling like there's, more to things than meets the eye? Like a whole hidden world of knowledge just waiting to be discovered?
I know what you mean. Well, that's exactly what you're diving into
Oh,
today.
yeah.
Yeah. With Rudolf Steiner's The Way of Initiation.
Okay.
It's a book from way back in 1908, and it's basically a guide for, well, anyone who's looking to unlock their potential, reach those higher states of consciousness. And honestly, some of this stuff it's pretty mind-bending.
Oh, it really is. Steiner was just such a fascinating guy. Philosopher, scientist, esotericist. He came up with a really unique approach to spiritual development. And you know what's so compelling about his work?
What's that?
It offers this path of self-discovery, transformation. He really believed that it could lead to, like, profound insights and a deeper understanding of yourself, the universe, everything.
Okay, so we're talking about initiation. What exactly does that even mean in this context?
So for Steiner, initiation wasn't about, like, joining some secret society or anything.
Right.
It was a personal journey, inner transformation, a process of refining your perception, expanding your awareness, and basically accessing those deeper levels of reality.
Okay. And this is where things get a little mysterious, right? Because Steiner was described as both a mystic, A&D, and occultist. Honestly, those terms always make me think of, like, crystal balls and secret rituals.
Yeah, I know. I mean, those words can sound kind of intimidating.
Yeah,
But it's really important to understand what Steiner actually meant by them.
right.
He was a mystic in the sense that he believed in, well, the possibility of directly experiencing the divine, like connecting with a higher reality, something beyond the physical world.
Okay.
And he was an occultist because he studied hidden knowledge, the laws that govern the spiritual world, the practices that allow us to, well, access those realms.
So it's not about magic in the sense of pulling rabbits out of hats.
No.
But more about developing our inner senses so we can perceive things that are normally hidden from us.
Exactly. Think of it like this. We're used to experiencing the world through our five senses, right?
Right.
But Steiner believed there are other senses, inner senses, that we can develop. These allow us to actually perceive the spiritual dimensions of reality.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
He actually talks about learning to hear with your soul and see with your spirit, which honestly I find both intriguing and a bit mind-boggling.
It is, right. It's definitely pushing those boundaries
Yeah.
of what we normally consider possible. But one of the things that drew me to Steiner's work was this insistence that this isn't about just, believing things blindly. He outlines a very specific path, a series of practices and disciplines to actually develop these faculties.
And before we jump into those practices, you mentioned that right at the beginning of his book, there's an introduction by Edward Schiré,
Oh, yeah.
who was a pretty influential writer and philosopher himself.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And Schiré, he really sets the stage for understanding Steiner's, unique perspective.
Yeah.
He talks about how a lot of people, even really intelligent people, they have these misconceptions about what mysticism and occultism actually are.
Yeah.
They think of mystics as sort of fuzzy-headed dreamers and occultists as like charlatans or people dabbling in dangerous magic.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where those stereotypes come from. It's not exactly mainstream thinking.
Right, exactly. It's not.
Yeah.
But Schiré argues that these definitions are just way too simplistic.
Okay.
He points to figures throughout history, like St. Martin, Jacob Boehme, Paracelsus, who, in his view, really demonstrate that true mysticism and occultism, they're not about vague dreaming at all.
So what are they about?
They're about disciplined practices
Yeah.
that are aimed at achieving deeper levels of understanding and connecting with the divine.
So there's a method to the madness,
Yes,
a structured approach to developing these spiritual faculties.
precisely. Schiré says that the true mystic, they become aware of their subconscious, and through focused meditation and discipline, they develop new ways of understanding reality. The occultist, on the other hand, they use observation and reason to penetrate the hidden foundations of nature. So they're both seeking deeper truths, just approaching it, from different angles.
Gotcha.
And what Schiré argues is that Steiner actually combines both of these approaches.
Oh, wow.
He's both a mystic AD and occultist,
Okay.
which gives him this really unique perspective.
Right, okay. And then Schiré goes on to talk about Steiner's background, how his childhood experiences might have shaped his worldview.
He does, yeah. And it's fascinating. He says that even as a child, Steiner had this unusual awareness of what he called a a twofold current of time.
A twofold current of time? What does that even mean?
Well, Steiner believed that the past isn't just gone, it's constantly flowing into the present.
Okay.
And at the same time, the future isn't just something that will happen, it's also influencing us right now.
Wow.
It's like the past and the future are both breathing in and out through
Yeah.
us, through the world, all the time.
So it's not a linear concept of time,
No,
more of a
absolutely.
cyclical flow.
Exactly. And Charest says Steiner had this, like, natural, intuitive grasp of this, even as a kid.
Wow.
And along with that, he was drawn to both scientific A&D, philosophical knowledge. He studied math, chemistry, philosophy. He was constantly trying to understand the world,
Right.
both the visible and the invisible.
That's so interesting. So he's sort of a bridge between those two worlds, the scientific and the spiritual.
Exactly.
Which then feeds into his approach to initiation.
Precisely. Steiner's path of initiation is all about developing the faculties that allow you to, like, perceive and understand this twofold current of time, this interplay of the physical and the spiritual in every aspect of existence. And he actually breaks this path down into stages. He outlines 3 main stages: probation, enlightenment, and initiation. And each of these involves specific practices and disciplines to refine your perception and cultivate those spiritual senses.
Okay, I'm ready to unpack these stages. What exactly happens in that first stage, probation?
In the stage of probation, the focus is on cultivating a sense of reverence, inner stillness, and, like, deep attentiveness to the world around you. Steiner emphasizes observing growth and decay in nature, really, really intently, watching a plant grow or a flower wilt.
Wait, watching a plant grow can lead to spiritual development. How does that work?
Well, it's about training your attention.
Oh, okay.
Think about it. Like, as children, we learn to see by gradually, like, focusing on the world around us.
Right.
Steiner suggests that in the same way, we can learn to see, spiritually by intently observing these subtle processes of growth and decay.
Okay.
It helps us develop a different kind of perception.
So we're kind of like waking up those dormant spiritual senses by paying close attention to the natural world.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not just about sight. It's about, all the senses.
Yeah.
Steiner also talks about listening deeply to sounds.
Okay.
Especially those made by, like, living things. He says those sounds actually carry a kind of, like, inner experience that we can learn to perceive if we listen carefully enough.
So it's about going beyond just hearing the sound itself.
Yeah.
And tuning into, like, a deeper meaning behind it.
Right. Yeah. It's like learning to listen with your soul, not just your ears.
Wow.
And Steiner believed this practice can even extend to, like, how we listen to other people.
Right.
Which, is a pretty valuable skill even outside of any kind of spiritual practice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these practices he outlines for spiritual development can actually help us improve our, like, everyday interactions too.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
It really highlights how Steiner saw this path of initiation as something, woven into every aspect of life.
Right.
And as you move into the second stage, enlightenment, things get even more interesting.
Okay, so we've mastered the art of watching plants grow and listening to the birds sing.
Right.
What happens in enlightenment?
This is where you start to perceive what Steiner calls the aura, or the spiritual emanations of things.
Okay.
Now, when you say aura, I know a lot of people think of those, like, colorful halos around people, right?
Yeah, that's what comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about here?
Well, not exactly. It's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Steiner describes specific practices, like focusing on the subtle color variations
Okay.
in stones and plants.
Oh, wow.
The idea is that by training your perception in this way,
Okay.
you eventually develop the ability to perceive the colors of what he calls the higher worlds.
So it's not about literally seeing physical colors, but more like developing an inner sight that allows you to perceive these spiritual dimensions.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's important to emphasize that Steiner really stressed the importance of maintaining a balanced, rational mindset throughout this process.
Okay.
He wasn't suggesting people, space out or disconnect from reality.
That makes sense, yeah. It's about expanding your awareness, not losing yourself in it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, the third stage, initiation, is the most mysterious and challenging one.
Okay.
Steiner says this is where you learn the mystery language.
Okay.
the true names by which things were created.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
true names by which things were created. That sounds pretty intense.
It is.
What does learning this mystery language actually involve?
To be honest, Steiner doesn't go into a ton of detail
Okay.
about the specifics of this stage,
Okay.
but he does mention 3 trials that any candidate for initiation has to go through.
Oh, wow.
The water trial, the air trial, and a trial where you have to act solely from inner promptings.
So these trials are like tests
Yeah.
to see if you're ready for this like deeper level of knowledge.
Yeah.
What do they actually involve?
What's important to understand, these aren't like physical challenges.
Right.
They're challenges of the soul. Think of them as tests of your courage, your presence of mind, and your ability to act decisively based on your intuition.
You're telling me it sounds like you really have to trust your gut to get through these trials.
You definitely do.
Yeah.
And Steiner also mentions these drafts of forgetfulness and remembrance that the initiate receives.
Okay.
It's almost like achieving a state of being fully present
Okay.
while also holding these higher truths deep within yourself.
So it's not just about like intellectually understanding these truths, but actually integrating them into your very being.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about embodying that wisdom
Mm-hmm.
and letting it guide your actions in the world.
Okay, so we've got these 3 stages: probation, enlightenment, and initiation.
Yes.
It's a pretty intense path.
It is.
But then alongside that, Steiner outlines 7 conditions for anyone pursuing occult training.
He does, yeah.
Okay, so beyond the 3 stages, there are these 7 additional conditions.
Yes.
What are they all about?
These are interesting because they offer some really practical and actionable takeaways, even for those of us who aren't, trying to become full-fledged initiates.
So even if we're not aiming for, like, full-on occult mastery,
Right.
there are still valuable lessons we can learn from these conditions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For example, the first condition is about combating impatience and cultivating inner peace.
Okay.
Steiner believed that impatience actually, paralyzes our higher faculties.
Really?
It keeps us from accessing deeper knowledge.
So it's not just about being a more patient person in general.
Yeah.
It's actually about understanding that impatience can be a roadblock on the path to spiritual growth.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And the second condition builds on that.
Okay.
It's about responding to challenges and even insults with calm composure,
Wow.
rather than reacting with anger or defensiveness.
Right.
Steiner suggests we try to meet those situations with a sense of, inner strength and balance.
So it's about developing that kind of like inner resilience to stay grounded when things get tough.
Yes.
Okay.
And the third condition emphasizes absolute truthfulness
Okay.
with yourself.
Okay.
Steiner believed that even the slightest self-deception, any attempt to, excuse our weaknesses, creates an obstacle on the path of spiritual development.
That's powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
It's about being honest with yourself about your strengths
Yeah.
and your weaknesses,
Right.
and then using that self-awareness to
Yeah.
grow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The fourth condition is all about directing your desires toward knowledge
Okay.
rather than immediate results.
Okay.
He argues that impatience for results can actually hinder our ability to, truly learn and grow.
So it's about finding that motivation in the love of learning itself.
Yes.
Not just the desire for, some kind of magical power or a quick fix.
Right.
Okay.
And this leads into the fifth condition, which is about understanding the power of our own thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
Steiner argues that our inner world isn't just some, airy-fairy realm. It has a real impact on the world around us.
So he's saying our thoughts and feelings aren't just private experiences. They're actually shaping our reality.
Precisely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the sixth condition builds on that by emphasizing a sense of gratitude for all of existence.
Okay.
Steiner says that recognizing our interconnectedness with the universe, our dependence on the web of life, it cultivates humility and opens us up to deeper truths.
So it's about recognizing we're not separate from the world,
Right.
but rather like part of this vast interconnected web of being.
Exactly.
Okay.
And finally, the seventh condition is about striving for a unified, harmonious expression of yourself in every aspect of life.
Okay.
Steiner suggests our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions should all be aligned with our highest principles.
So it's about walking the talk,
Yeah.
living with integrity, and,
Yeah.
and really embodying your values in every aspect of your life.
Precisely. And, what's so fascinating here is that even though these 7 conditions are presented in the context of, occult training,
Right.
they're really universal principles for personal growth and ethical living.
Totally.
Yeah.
Even if you don't buy into all of Steiner's occult ideas,
Right.
there's so much wisdom here that you can apply to everyday life.
I think that's what makes his work so enduring.
Yeah.
There's a depth and a richness to it that speaks to, I think, anyone seeking a more conscious and meaningful life.
So we've covered like a ton of ground here.
You have.
From Steiner's background and the stages of initiation to those 7 conditions for occult training. It's quite a journey he lays out.
It really is. And, even though some of this stuff sounds pretty, far out,
Yeah.
it all comes back to this idea of disciplined self-development.
Okay.
Refining your perception, expanding your awareness. It's like a workout for your soul.
Yeah, and he's definitely not suggesting this is some kind of quick fix, right?
No, not at all.
It sounds like it takes like serious commitment and dedication to even begin to grasp these concepts,
Oh,
let alone put them into practice.
absolutely. Steiner talks about how, we as modern people, we tend to rush from one impression to the next.
Right, yeah, always on the go.
Yeah, we're constantly bombarded by the outer world.
Uh-huh.
And he suggests that to really access these deeper truths, we need to cultivate an inner stillness, a space of like quiet contemplation.
So it's about finding that balance between like being engaged in the world,
Right.
but also carving out that inner space
Yeah.
for reflection and growth.
Exactly. And what really stands out to me in all of this is Steiner's emphasis on the power of thought.
Okay.
He's not just talking about positive thinking here. He's arguing that our thoughts and feelings are actual forces that shape our reality.
That's a powerful idea. It's
Yeah.
like he's saying our inner world isn't just this private realm, it's actually interconnected with everything around us.
Right, exactly. He even suggests that our thoughts and feelings have a kind of moral weight to them,
Really?
that they contribute to the overall quality of the world.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing. It makes you think twice about what you're putting out there, right?
It does, doesn't it?
Like, if our negativity and fear are actually contributing to, like, a more negative and fearful world,
Yeah.
then, conversely, cultivating more positive thoughts and emotions would have a real impact.
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
And I think that's a really empowering concept.
Yeah.
Even if you don't, subscribe to all of Steiner's occult ideas,
Right.
if we take responsibility for our inner world, we can start to create a more positive and harmonious reality, both for ourselves and for everyone around us.
I love that. It shifts the focus from trying to change, like, the external world
Right.
to recognizing the power we have to, like, transform ourselves from the inside out. And
Exactly.
if enough of us do that,
Yeah.
who knows what's possible?
Exactly. I think that's at the heart of what Steiner is pointing to in the way of initiation. It's a call to like embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation,
Oh.
one that ultimately leads to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the cosmos.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Rudolf Steiner's The Way of Initiation. It's been quite a journey. Thanks for joining us.